Certainly this is a time for moral clarity and leadership. Moral clarity and leadership. And those are in such short supply in the White House and at our university campuses. You know, our universities were the leaders, the cheerleaders, the promoters of DEI. DEI has taken over Comp 1 classes and Econ 101 classes and Psych 1 classes, and all the way through your master's thesis, our universities are just dominated by this DEI theme. And what I sit there and wonder today is how does a university that promotes DEI also promote anti-Semitism? How do you square that circle? How can you do both? How can you promote DEI, preach that to your kids, your students, and then you wake up one day and allow anti-Semitism to go on in your particular university? Could you imagine being on a university today and wherever you see a sign that says Jews or Zionism or Israel, and then of course there's some negative slogan with that. If you would insert another ethnic group, another religion, then that would be considered a terrorist crime. The FBI would be there investigating that crime. The FBI would be shutting down your university, perhaps. You know, I'm just reminded of what happened in the Holocaust, where if we allow them to go after the Jews, they're going to come after you next. That's why this is so important. This is why it's so important that we just not talk the talk, but we walk the walk. And in this country, we don't allow hatred and we don't allow violence against other groups because of their ethnicity, because of their religion. I also thought a lot this week about how did we get here? How do we get to these riots? And I still think that we are living in a culture of lawlessness created by Joe Biden. It started with an open border, totally against the law. There's no laws on our border right now. He's basically proposed and allowed cashless bail to go on. We see these smash and grabs go on. It can defund the police. And we turn our heads against violent riots that we saw in 2020 and now we're seeing today. We turn our heads to violence and people that are breaking laws right now. You know, there's a rot in our universities. There's a rot in the White House and there's a rot in this country to allow this to go on. I think about this moral clarity. I think about leadership. And I often go back and say, well, is this the first time this ever happened in this country? Well, no, it's not. And I go back to Governor Ronald Reagan, what he did in a similar situation, and what President Eisenhower did in a similar situation as well. Where's the moral clarity and the leadership from our university presidents as well as the President of the United States? And I think the last question I ask myself today is why? Why is the university presidents and why is this president turning his head away from these violent crimes that are going on? Why is this president wanting to bring in tens of thousands, maybe 100,000 refugees from Gaza? It's because he is catering to a handful of votes in Michigan. He's totally politically driven rather than doing the right thing. He has no moral clarity. He's a political beast. That's all he cares about is re-election rather than doing the right thing. And here we are today with a lot of moral rot in the White House and our universities. And I think what you're hearing from the folks here today is we're going to stand up and fight against this. So